Brothers and sisters, today is the feast of St. Francis de Sales, and he's a wonderful doctor of the Church about, the universal call to holiness, which Vatican II strongly proclaimed that, sanctity and the whole life of union with God and the heights of that is called for everyone. And since we've been speaking the last while on this overextended series on becoming saints, he's a great model, St. Francis de Sales, because he really introduces into the life of the Church like doctrine and teaching specifically applicable to the laity, and not just as a focus on monks and religious and priests, but for all Christians to find in their role in life their union with God. And so every moment, every ordinary moment is a sacred moment. Recently, Father James Brent, who's a really good friend of mine and is Dominican of the Eastern Province. Some of you would have attended the lecture we had on the Heart Reach monthly series, which, by the way, please God, we'll have another one soon. I just have to plan it. But in a recent article, which I'm going to put up in the group, it's worth reading the whole article. But, he just cautions that we do not reduce the sense of the sacred to explicitly religious things, as good and amazing as they are, like Eucharistic adoration, the rosary, prayers, official prayers, but to really widen our understanding of just ordinary human experience is a moment to encounter God. It's a moment to discover the infinite presence of the Lord in just even conversation, a conversation with someone. It might not be having an explicitly religious conversation, but if it's a wholesome, good, beautiful conversation, it could be discussing your favorite art, or a beautiful scenery, or some trip. But God created those things, or if it's good and true and beautiful, it has come from the hands of the Father. And so if it's good enough for God to look down upon the most ordinary things in life and enjoy it, then we too could enter into that enjoyment of God over all the good things that he creates, whether it's the conversation that he's creating right now, moment by moment through us, the good things. That's a sacred well for us to drink from. But the difference is we must search for God in it, and we must do it for the sake of God, to honor him. So whether, we go to meet someone and we're going to have a lunch and it's wholesome, if we're doing that too, not just for the sake of only meeting the person, which is good and beautiful in itself, but you have an intention to find God in that conversation, to be with that person in view of God, that God is looking down at you right now and he's in you with that conversation. So it's just to widen our minds about the sacred. It's not relegated, it's not minimized only to explicitly religious stuff, because that would fly in the face of God the Creator and the greater truths of our Catholic tradition. Now, so, and this has been the great insights of so many saints, and the Church has always taught this, and it's in Scripture. Saint Josemaria Escriva, the founder of Opus Dei, the work of God, he was given a tour once of a series of chapels in Rome, and I think at the end of it someone asked him, which one was your favorite chapel? And admitting all are extraordinarily beautiful, he opened the window and he pointed to the outside. He said, that's my favorite chapel. And this is a beautiful insight, to see the world as an altar upon which we offer the daily works as sacrifices, as an offering to him. Whether we are studying, whether we are working, it calls for virtue, and every time we exercise virtue, we destroy the evil in us. We destroy our tendency for sin. So even like when I set out to study, one of my professors recently, who I live with, Father Vivian Boland, was saying, when we go to study, we're employing so many virtues. You have to have the courage to begin to study. You're fighting your fears of maybe not knowing something. You have to be disciplined not to be distracted in a million other ways. So it calls for temperance. So just the act of study alone is a discipline, and it destroys sin in us. And so it can lead us to prayer. So that's a way of how something sacred. Now, I'm studying explicitly religious things at the moment. You know, I'm studying God in a very explicit way. But whether your studies history or science, and if it's good and leading to the truth, that means that it's leading to God himself, was the source of all these good things. So St. Francis de Sales, come back to St. Francis de Sales. And one of his great advice and lessons about holiness, becoming saints, is really knowing your state in life, knowing the God-given talents and gifts you have, and also the state in life God has led you to and brought you into right now, and whether we are fulfilling those duties of life with love. You know, whether you're a parent, and then on top of that, you're a parent, you might be a daughter as well, or a son, you might be a brother, a sibling, you work, you have obligations to your fellow workers, to the work, to your boss, etc. How well do we do these things? Do we do them well?